Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I have Arun with me. Arun is always wondering constantly nowadays why certain videos are doing well and why certain videos are not doing well. He spends considerable amount of time going through the podcast videos which is present, and he's trying to determine and understand why some videos are doing well and some videos are not doing well. And I told him that kind of information, if anybody knew, they'd become very rich because then they'd crack the algorithm in YouTube and all their videos would be very successful. So instead, I told him to focus his mind and efforts on trying to understand about investments and shares and what other topic he may feel that he would like to talk about, even in personal finance or in personal development, and not to worry too much about the view counts and the comments. But I guess him being a young man, an ambitious young man, that too, he seems to be focusing on that. So if you do see this video and you feel empathy towards Arun, do give him a like and give him a comment saying it's okay and not to fixate on these things. That being said, what do you have for me today, Arun?
So I have questions from comments of our channel. So the first question is, Jeff Bezos sold Amazon stocks worth billions of dollars in February, but it didn't affect the Amazon stock price. But BAT is offloading ITC shares and ITC shares are falling. Why is that?
First, we got to understand there's two different companies, two different markets. There's no way to compare it. Okay, you're just looking at headlines of one guy making big sale in shares, another guy is making a big sale in shares. One is creating price movement in the share. Why isn't the equal price movement happening? First of all, Jeff Bezos did this some time back. And you should see the reasons why Jeff Bezos had to do it. Jeff Bezos had to do it because he had to comply with some SEC rule, an old rule. And if you go dive into it, you can understand more about it. And that is more to do about insider trading and owner wanting to offload shares. There are certain rules and obligations he has to follow. If he owns a certain percentage of the company and if he wants to offload shares, he has to follow these rules. So to comply with those, he had to do some offloading of shares. Plus, he's also investing in other things in the US. So he needed some cash. And the third thing why he was doing it was he's moved his residence to Florida. And in Florida, the taxation for these kind of capital gains tax on these kind of sales is one of the lowest in the US. So the amount of tax also he had to pay for these billions of dollars is far less. So he took everything into consideration and he's done it. But though the volume of share for us may look huge, but if you look at in his holding, what the percentage of his holding, it's not huge. So if you analyze the ratio and see it's not huge. Now, in comparison to BAT, the BAT needs to sell for other reasons, and BAT has a much larger position. And the situation of BAT and ITC is very different compared to Amazon as a company. And there is something known as market absorption, like a sponge. So sometimes when a company is very valuable and a lot of people are trying to buy into that company, it's like a sponge. No matter how much you drop, it will keep absorbing. The market keeps absorbing. So the absorption of an ITC drop will be very different than from an Amazon. Amazon is a globally traded company. You got investors from all over the world buying and pushing for it. ITC, meanwhile, is an Indian company. Yes, there are FIIs and FPIs trying to invest into ITC if the opportunity comes at the right price. So you got to keep that in mind. And the second thing is the company, what they're offering as a product itself is completely different. ITC is mainly a tobacco company. Now just over the last, 30 odd years, moved and pivoted into FMCG and hotels and papers. And then now hotels are also going to be separated from the main company. So if you look at all of it and analyze that, it's different. Yes, you can wonder intellectually why. And to get the answer why, you have to deep dive into why Jeff Bezos is doing it and the Amazon company and the American market where it's being sold. And then you see the Indian market and you analyze that and you'll get an answer. But to compare both of them is of no use other than just some intellectual curiosity. What you should be more worried about is it an opportunity to buy the share? That is completely based on earnings to price. So you see where ITC's price to earnings is, and is it making sense to buy that? Same way you look at Amazon's price to earning and see if it's making sense. When I say we should see the price to earnings for Amazon is you should historically look at where Amazon's price to earnings has been, not compare it to some other average or industry average and all that. So you see Amazon's price to average over the last 5 years and where it is. and then you compare. If it's above that, that means it's getting overvalued. If it's below the 5-year Amazon's price to earnings average, then it's probably below value. So then you can look at Amazon. Same is true with ITC. You take ITC's price to earnings over last 5 years and see where it is sitting right now. If that is looking more than what the usual ITC's price to earnings is for the last 5-6 years, then it is overvalued. And if it's below that, it's undervalued. So that kind of analysis is what you should be focused more on than comparing apples to oranges. Yes, both are fruits. Other than that, it is of no value. Okay.
But one more thing I noticed here is BAT is the holding company of ITC and Amazon, Jeff Bezos is the promoter. So it has to do with promoter selling the share and...
no, but BAT is also the promoter of ITC. But BAT was originally, historically, they are the ones who started ITC in India.
Okay.
When this is way back before Indian independence. It's a very old company. So that way, if you look at it, they are the promoters.
So like I thought only the person is the promoter, but holding...
No, even companies can become promoters. Because a company, legally speaking, is considered as an individual entity. A company is not looked upon as a non-entity. Legally speaking, a company, once it's formed, in the eyes of the law, is also treated as an individual. So that doesn't matter. And how BAT being a holding company, or this, even if you analyze it like that, holding company, and Jeff Bezos being a promoter, how does that have to influence price movement in the market when shares are being sold? Right? So it doesn't matter. So and even if you see ITC, even after the BAT announcement was done, BAT hasn't really started dumping the shares as yet. And they'll have a bottom price, which they'll try and keep. Jeff Bezos has already finished this. So you're also comparing it not really linearly, because this is already over and this is yet to really take shape. So we'll have to wait and watch how it happens.
So you just said that Jeff Bezos moved to Florida and their taxes are less. So how does it differ from state to state in America? But in India, the taxes
because
are same.
In India, certain rules in India are central. Right? In the US, it's a federal rule. So federal means states have more power.
Okay.
In India, we are a quasi-federal. Quasi-federal means certain things are controlled by the center, certain things are controlled by the state. As far as taxation of capital gains is concerned, it is a central government rule.
Okay. For entire India, it is the same tax.
Yes. It has been decided that central government will decide this. But there are the sales tax. If you see, there are certain sales tax which are state sales tax, and then the central government tax. There are two taxes in India. All that needs to be reformed in India. But that reformation will only happen when there is consensus between the center and state in India. Right now, the way India is politically and socially situation it is in, there is very little consensus on agreeing on anything, what is center and what is state. If anything, the state feels like center is grabbing more power, and what the center feels is states are trying to stamp their authority too much. So there is a lot of tug of war happening between center and state. But this is there historically. But I do feel being a quasi like this is good than being rigid, like in China where everything is controlled by the center. Like a communist
People
state.
cannot decide anything.
Yeah, exactly. It gets very difficult to control things because a guy sitting in Delhi, what does he know what's happening in Thoothukudi? Right? Even sitting in Chennai, it's very hard to know what is happening in Thoothukudi. So you want some distribution of power. But at the same time, is it okay to be in the level where US is? Because that's why even corporate tax, Elon Musk in this Tesla case, he registered an office in Delaware because it is the lowest place for corporate taxes.
Okay.
That's why that state is attracting offices there by lowering corporate taxes. So more and more companies will want to open a shop there. Then he got upset, of course, when the Delaware judge ruled against him, saying you cannot take a salary of $55 billion. He got very upset about it. Now he's saying I will move to Texas. It allows certain flexibility. But then what happens is, it also leads to chaos because each state feels it's emboldened to do what it wants. If you see American history, you have to study American history. Each of the states were all quasi separate by themselves. So they had to agree when the country was formed, declared independence and the constitution was formed. Each one felt they wanted to keep their independence. So it took a lot of effort and agreements to be drawn up for America to be formed. That's why it's called United States of America, meaning they are all separate states. They're unitedly working for a common cause.
Okay.
Right. Even if you see the UAE, it's the same thing, United Arab Emirates. Yeah, they're all small emirates who are working together for a single cause. So they share certain things are not shared. So this is okay. So this is the thing. So as an Indian, you're not used to it. So when you see this, that your capital gains can be different in different places, that's true.
Okay.
That's why in US people have lots of regional banks. Lots of people keep moving around and opening companies everywhere and keep changing headquarters from here to there depending on tax laws. Okay. Chalo. I think I've explained this in great detail to you. I hope whomever has asked the question, they have found some answers in this. Chalo. Thank you for watching the podcast, guys, and we'll see you in the next one soon.